What's going on? T Speaks here. So I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit in the discovery that I made, and it did cause a bit of agitation, and maybe I thought it might be useful to you. So what I realized of late, the more deeper I go within my thought process, is that I thought I was free from when I, was born, going to school. I thought I had freedom to go where I wanted to go, to do what I always wanted to do. And this is what they say, you can be whatever you want to be. But the truth of the matter is, I've been herded, just like many of you. I've been, if you will, treated as cattle and pushed toward a certain direction. It's kind of like if you had a diet from infancy of only spinach. When you got old enough to go out and get food for yourself, what's the one thing you would eat and you would go after? Spinach. Why? Because you've been raised or groomed to eat spinach, love spinach, and feel as if spinach was the only thing there was. I recognized the other day that in school, starting off in school, I was herded or turned to go a particular way, just like cattle. And it was kind of like, oh, everyone's doing this. Everyone's going to school. And you're taught things, on the board, and you're writing and all of this. And then you're given certain words like, you have to study. You just have to study hard and pass your classes and get a good job. And I realized that that's what I had engrafted in my mind, and it was all around me. It was, everyone was going to work, the adults. The kids were going to school so that they could become adults to do what? To go to work. So we were groomed to be, if you will, the quote unquote middle class, or the better expression, the working class. Because they say that the economy rests really on the working class, because let's face it, the poor only right now, because they have less than, have little to contribute to society as a whole to help. The wealthy are the ones that are, if you will, beneficial to what's being done by the middle class. So the ones that are working on regular jobs, I don't care what it is, if you're working, you're the court officer in a courtroom. If you're the dental hygienist, those are the working class. If you're an electrician, those the teachers, those are the working class. And we are, if you will, supposed to be satisfied with a bracket of salary for a lot of time, versus the wealthy class put in a little bit of time and get wealthy. And then they come up and devise ways to become even wealthier. So it's basically, if you were wealthy and you had children, you would groom your children to become wealthy, or to maintain the wealth, or to grow the wealth. No one wealthy grooms their child, if you will, to be a middle class or a lower income person. Why? Because you reproduce after your own kind. So without, if you will, a disruption, I was groomed to be working class. And I thought it was an honor when someone said, here's a job. Here's a job, and it's supposed to be, it's a 40-hour week. You guys ever read that in the book? When they give you the booklet at the beginning of getting a job, you read all the bylaws, and you read all the do's and the don'ts and all of that when you're filling out for your dental insurance and your life insurance. Like, think about it. I'm filling out the papers in case I die on this job. Who's going to get my benefits? So, but that's another story. So, and then basically, you go through and it says a 40-hour work week is, except I don't know anyone right now that works 40 hours. Do you know what 40 hours are? 40 hours is actually 40 hours. However, most people don't work 40 hours. Most people work 40, 50, 60. The ones that really are in certain positions will work 65. And get this, if you count your travel time to and from your destination, your job, you work more. If you count the times that you're actually in your house, but yet you're still thinking of that job, it exceeds the 60. I was groomed to do this and to accept it and to think that it was okay. And I'm willing to wager that many of you were. This is where my agitation came from, because I recognize that I was never given a freedom of choice. I was groomed to be something until I got old enough, thank God, to realize that that's the wrong thought process. That I don't want to be middle class. Now, I'm not knocking anyone that loves their job. If you want to work in Amazon, if you want to work and you love climbing the phone company, the poles, if you love cleaning the boards for the solar power, if you want to love cleaning those panels, if you love being a technician, if you love being a mechanic, if you love being a hygienist, if you love being a construction worker, I want you to continue doing that. But as for me, I recognize that, number one, you took away my freedom of choice. You made a decision for me before I can make a decision for myself. That's disgusting. That's terrible. I resent that and I resist that, which means I no longer accept it. And then I recognize that the things that every now and then that would come into my mind as I'm just sitting, just doing things, and many of you, I'm sure, have had this happen to you. I'll be sitting and I'll just be doing whatever job I'm required to do, and all of a sudden, things will enter my mind that had nothing to do with the job, but a more desire inside of me. I started thinking about what I could be doing. I started, if you will, engaging in my imagination of the different things that were possible. Although I couldn't see them, they were real to me in my imagination. I've only later begun to realize that out of the imagination stems life. And what do I mean by that? Everything that you see around you, my shirt, my clothes, your toothbrush, your car, was all conceived first in the imagination of man. And if you take it a step further, man was conceived in the imagination of his creator, God. So we are all, if you will, imagination. So when I sat and I was sitting in my office and I would start imagining things, it went sort of like this. I'm looking around, I imagine myself, true story, standing on a stage and speaking, and I see all these people and they're cheering and everyone's happy and they're smiling, and I am doing what I love, I'm smiling. And yet, on the job, if I dare mention this to anyone, I was ridiculed as having too lofty a thought, or thinking, dude, come on, get back to work. And I was made to feel bad because I had an imagination, because I thought that I could do something more than what I was doing at that particular time. My mind, if you will, was jumping over the gates, over the boundaries that someone had locked me in, all within my mind. Because they say that if you take an elephant, I believe, and you put something around it, even when you remove it, it stays in because it imagines that it's still there. So no one tells me stay on that job, keep working until you die, retire, but yet I do it because I've already been groomed. It's in my DNA now. Well, you know what? I realize that it's time to get a new DNA, to adapt a different mindset. It starts here, and then you see it here. So now what I'm doing is what I've always imagined to do. And I'm smiling, I'm helping people. My expertise, my mastery now has been able to, and I'm not kidding, when you see adults come up to you and they start crying and telling you thank you for helping them out of their pain, you recognize, wait a minute, what if I had never done this? What if I never took a chance? What if I allowed myself to still be hurted? And that's the part that causes me a lot of displeasure when I think about it. But then I automatically go over that into the excitement is because I broke out of it. Maybe some of you have had the same thoughts. Maybe some of you have had the same imagination that seems more real than what's around you. Because ultimately, it is more real. If you make it real, it becomes real. I want to just implore you, I want to encourage you to go forward with that thought and reject every contrary thought. When they make you feel bad because you see yourself as being more than what they are or doing things different than what they are, don't shun what you feel. No, still stay there. Push them back, because oftentimes people will not want more for you than they want for themselves. So when I did give my resignation in, everyone looked at me like, yo, you kidding me? You're going to let go of the best thing in your life? Who says this is the best thing? A job is the best thing for my life. Because when I'm doing what it is that I was born to do and what I'm passionate about, it's no longer work. It is what I love to do. Is it tiring? Yes. But is it satisfying? Absolutely. And the last thing I wanted to say is, at least to myself, is the payoff is greater than the cost. But you've got to take a step on faith, because we only have one life to live. And if I stayed every day of my life and listen to what, quote unquote, was the status quo, to what was the middle class rule, where would I be the rest of my life? Middle class, and who's to say when would be my last day? So if you never get out the ship, if you never get in the water, how do you ever know if you can swim? How do you know you can't create your own business? How do you know you can't be more than what you are unless you take a step of faith? And that's what seems to make sense to me. And I think that hopefully something I've said makes sense to you. If it has, do me a favor, like, subscribe, certainly share this message, because someone is ready for a change. Someone is rejecting what they've been taught to be. Because you've been taught to be a worker. And you've been shunned and you've been made to feel bad because you had entrepreneurial thoughts, which means you wanted to be at the top tier, to be the best you. Don't despise that. Go into that still. Let the people know that you reject their rules and their boundaries. I'm not saying be disrespectful, but what I'm saying is let your mind go beyond the wall and create, and then move your body there. I'm T Speaks. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you.